Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we're tackling something that frankly causes headaches for marketers and media buyers everywhere. We are demystifying the absolute alphabet soup of ad tech. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Those endless campaign reports filled with acronyms that look way more like secret codes than actual business insights. But stick with me, because today we're stripping away the confusion and building a rock-solid foundation.
If you've ever stared at a campaign report and felt like you were just drowning in acronyms, trust me, you're not alone. I mean, impression, CTR, view-through, ROAS, it really can feel like you're trying to read a foreign language. And it's incredibly frustrating when you literally just want to know if your campaign is actually working. But here's the cool part. Once you understand exactly what each of these acronyms measures, the whole ecosystem just kind of clicks into place. It stops being a math test and starts becoming this really interesting story about human behavior.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the basics. Second, cost metrics. Then, performance metrics. And finally, video metrics.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the basics.
And that brings us to our very first term, which is the impression. So an impression is simply the number of times an ad is served and displayed on a screen. Now, I really want you to focus on the word served here. Every single time your banner ad loads on someone's device, that counts as one impression. It absolutely doesn't matter if the user actually looked at it, if they clicked it, or if they even consciously noticed it was there. If the ad loaded, the system counts it. It's the fundamental building block of everything in ad tech.
So once an ad is served, the next logical step is user action. A click is exactly what it sounds like, right? Someone tapping or clicking on your ad. But a raw count of clicks, that doesn't tell us the whole story. That is exactly why we rely on click-through rate, or CTR. This is the percentage of your total impressions that actually resulted in a click. Because while a click is just a physical tap on a screen, your CTR is the crucial metric that tells you how compelling your creative and your targeting actually are. Basically, if your CTR is low, it means either the wrong audience is seeing your ad or the ad itself just isn't resonating with them.
The math here is brilliantly simple. It's just clicks divided by impressions multiplied by 100 to give you a percentage. So let's say your ad gets 10,000 impressions out there in the wild, and it generates 100 clicks from those impressions. Your CTR is exactly 1%. It's really that easy to figure out if your creative is doing its job.
Now, you might be looking at your own 1% CTR and wondering, wait, is that actually good? Well, context is absolutely everything in ad tech. In standard display advertising, those banner ads you see on websites, a 0.1% CTR is actually considered average. That means only one click for every 1,000 times the ad loads. No way, right? However, if you're running search ads on a platform like Google, where user intent is much higher, you might actually see CTRs between 5 and 10%. So always benchmark against your specific ad format.
Moving right along, section 2, cost metrics.
Okay, here are your big 3 cost models. First up is CPM, or cost per mil. Fun fact here, mil is actually Latin for 1,000, so this is simply your cost per 1,000 impressions. Next is CPC, or cost per click, where you literally pay for the tap. And finally, CPV, cost per view, which is specifically designed for video. The quick rule of thumb, if your primary goal is brand awareness, you want CPM. If you're trying to drive traffic to your website, definitely go with CPC. And if you want to ensure people are actually watching your video content, CPV is going to be your best friend.
Let's quickly highlight the math behind CPM since it's the industry standard buying model in programmatic advertising, display networks, and honestly, a whole lot of video. Your CPM is your total spend divided by total impressions multiplied by 1,000. So if you buy a $5 CPM, you are paying exactly $5 every single time your ad is shown 1,000 times. It's highly predictable, which makes it perfect for those top-of-funnel, reach-based goals.
All right, down to the bottom line. Section 3, performance metrics. So the crucial point is really thinking of this as the grand narrative of the user journey. It all starts with that impression, your ad loading on the screen. It catches their eye, so they click. Now they're on your site and they take a specific action, which we call a conversion. Maybe they filled out a form or added a product to their cart. And finally, that action turns into revenue. It becomes pretty clear that every foundational metric we've discussed so far feeds directly into these tangible, real-world business results.
Which brings us to CPA, or cost per acquisition. This tells you exactly how much you're spending to get one of those conversions. Whether that conversion is a product purchase, an email sign-up, or an app download, CPA is absolutely vital for performance advertising. Why? Because it completely bypasses all the fluff. It ties your ad spend directly to a specific user action or a business outcome.
So, if you spend $500 to get 10 signups, your CPA is $50. Pretty straightforward.
But if you're running an e-commerce brand or a direct response campaign, there's really one metric that reigns supreme, and that is ROAS, or return on ad spend. This is the revenue you generate for every single dollar you spend on advertising. It is the ultimate bottom line metric. CPA tells you what an action costs, but ROAS tells you if that action is actually making you wealthy. Let me give you a really clear example of how ROAS works in practice. If you spend $1,000 on an ad campaign and that campaign generates $4,000 in direct sales, your ROAS is 4x, which is sometimes expressed as 400%. Basically, you put $1 into the machine and $4 come out. In the e-commerce world, a 3x benchmark is a very common target, but keep in mind, this varies wildly depending on your specific industry and, of course, your profit margins.
Now let's switch gears a bit. Section 4, Video Metrics. The absolute big one here is VCR, or Video Completion Rate. This is the percentage of viewers who watched your video ad all the way through to the very end. A high VCR is the ultimate proof that your creative content is highly engaging and capable of holding a user's attention. Now, context totally matters here too. For connected TV, think the streaming apps on your smart TV, and pre-roll ads on platforms like YouTube, you'll typically see VCRs skyrocket to between 70 and 95%. And why is that? Because those formats are very often non-skippable.
Now, what's really interesting here is the concept of viewability. Remember earlier when I said an impression just means the ad loaded? Well, viewability measures whether a human being actually saw it. According to the IAB standards, a display ad is viewable only if 50% of it is on screen for 1 continuous second. For video, it's 50% for 2 continuous seconds. This matters immensely because ignoring viewability can literally burn thousands of ad dollars. If your ad loads at the very bottom of a web page and the user never scrolls down, sure, it counts as an impression, but it is not viewable. Tracking viewability ensures you're buying quality inventory, not just cheap, invisible impressions.
All right, let's wrap this up. Here are your major takeaways. Impressions and CTR are your measures for visibility and engagement. When it comes to buying media, CPM, CPC, and CPV are your core cost models. To see if your ads are actually driving business, look to conversions and CPA for action tracking. For e-commerce, ROAS is your gauge for revenue efficiency. And finally, VCR and viewability are your crucial quality signals. Mastering this foundation empowers you to stop guessing and start making incredibly smart decisions with your media budget.
Now, I want to turn this over to you. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. So what metric out there in the ad tech world still confuses you the most? Drop your answers down in the comments below, and we will absolutely tackle the most common ones in a future explainer. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning how to decode the ad tech universe. To keep leveling up your knowledge, subscribe to AdTech AI Files. Bite-sized content for those of us living in an AI world. Keep analyzing, keep optimizing, and I will see you all in the next explainer.